how could House of the Dragon possibly hope to be better than the books? It's impossible. But what I will do is explain to you how it will expand upon the source material. That's kind of the responsibility, because the story for this series is already completed. So what's going to separate this TV show from this previously completed book series? Or I guess it's just one book, but the story's mostly been told. What will separate the two? I'm going to try to explore all those different possibilities in this video. So please, before I do that, do me a massive favor and slap a like on this video. Also, make sure you're subscribed. That way you'll get an alert anytime I drop a video throughout the wait for House of the Dragon Season 1, or as it's known on this channel, The Long Nights. Okay, so first things first. The question is being asked. How will Hot D be better than the books? And like I said in the beginning, it's impossible for that. The main reason being, let me explain, right? So, while I'm reading Fire and Blood, one of the big things that is missing, especially when you read the main series, is POV. We have to have other people explain the motivations of people who are not themselves, and because of that, the information, to believe all of the information, rather, is a massive folly. Like, you should not do that. It's a massive mistake. You kind of have to take 3 different people's versions and then make up your own. That's always going to be better than whatever we see on TV. The main reason being is because whatever you decide in your head is exactly what you decided. You get to be the showrunner for the book that you're reading, right? So I was the showrunner for A Dance with Dragons. I was a showrunner for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I was a showrunner for A Feast with Crows. When there are certain moments that I read, I got to see them exactly how I envisioned them in my head. And no, I didn't write this story, but it's my interpretation that I'm envisioning in my head. And with the Game of Thrones TV show, that's someone else's interpretation of what they envisioned in their head. So that's the biggest, hardest thing to get over when reading something and then watching it on screen is you're watching someone else's versions of the same events that you both read. So there's obviously going to be massive discrepancies in how you envision something and how a showrunner envisioned it. But one thing that does work in the show's favor is like certain mysteries that are left up for the reader to interpret, we can get confirmations on for the TV show. And that, if anything, just adds fuel to the fire of debate for Song of Ice and Fire fans. Like, there are still people that do not believe that Jon Snow's parents are Rhaegar and Lyanna. There's a large chunk of people that do not believe that Jon Snow is half Targaryen and half Stark. There's people that think his mother is a Shara Dane and his father is Ned Stark. Now, yes, George, it's all his fault because he literally says that Jon Snow looks more like Ned than any of Ned's actual children. But you gotta realize that we're seeing how another character sees that character. Or we're seeing how that person envisions themselves. So on screen, we get to have certain things like Jon Snow's lineage confirmed. This show will do things like with Daemon's death, right? Like we all know Daemon supposedly dies while killing his nephew Aemon One Eye in the battle above the God's Eye. His dragon Caraxes is less than half the size of Vhagar, and Vhagar is the biggest dragon of all time. Caraxes is so fucking ferocious, is able to take down Vhagar. Aemon is mystical. So he knows certain things, or at least we think he does in the books, but we don't have his POV, so that's one thing that the show will get to confirm. We will get to see a junior Bloodraven, right? When a Targaryen loses something, they gain something. When a Stark loses something, they gain something. In specific, when Daenerys lost Khal Drogo, she walked into the fire with no dragons and walked out with several dragons, right? So when Bran Stark is pushed out of the window by Jaime Lannister, his third eye is open. He loses his ability to walk, but he gains the ability to fly. What the fuck did Aemon gain the ability of, if not foresight? Eye for an eye. Aemon lost his eye, and he will have some mystical abilities associated with that eye. It will be a gleaming sapphire, and maybe he'll have a bit of Book Euron and a bit of Book Daemon mixed in with him, right? Because that would make the most sense to envision who this character is supposed to be. He's supposed to be like a dragon riding Joffrey mixed with Ramsay, mixed with however Condor and Sapochnik envision him, with the influence of Martin, of course. So I guess what I'm getting at here, and just to sort of wrap this video up, is like, no, the show will never be flat out better than the books, because it's impossible. Something that comes first is the original. It paved the way. Also, you have, 8 seasons of Game of Thrones to compete with. But this show can set itself apart, for the simple fact that a lot of the most exciting parts of this show aren't concrete in the books. So I'm excited to get to see what these people interpreted. For instance, in the books, Rhaenyra sits the Iron Throne for a little bit, but ultimately she's forced to sell her crown to buy passage back to Dragonstone, because she obviously has to flee the capital once the Dragon Pit and her dragon Syrax have fallen. Now, obviously, I'm greatly just kind of combining things together here for the speed's sake of this video, but she ends up making her way back to Dragonstone, and when she gets there, she notices that things are a little bit weird. Then she's fed to her brother Aegon II's dragon, Sunfire, devours her in front of her child Aegon, who is the son of Prince Daemon and Princess Rhaenyra. He watches his mother die by being eaten by a dragon, and this is why he gets the name of Dragonsbane. He's afraid of dragons. He doesn't want anything to do with them. And when Bella, his half-sister, comes with Moondancer, he's like deathly afraid of dragons. Even the mention of dragons makes Aegon's skin crawl. So in my opinion, watching his mother being eaten by a dragon would scar him, yes, but just imagine, since we know that Sunfire is flightless at this time, and he can't fly, just imagine if Aegon, being, wounded and gravely injured like he is, right, but he does end up making the trip back to King's Landing, so he's not that, inept, right? Just imagine if he met Rhaenyra on the shore of Dragonstone, and he's on the back of Sunfire. Sunfire's crawling across the rocks and the steps and finally makes it to the beach because, Sunfire can't fly. Sunfire's supposed to be the most beautiful dragon to ever have existed, right? So if we get to see the whole version of Sunfire and Aegon II's riding her in the beginning, and in the end, this is the last version we see, it's just gut-wrenching, right? So Sunfire have one of his wings missing. He's crawling over the rocks, viciously, finally gets down to Rhaenyra, and Aegon doesn't say anything to her. He says nothing. He just has his dragon devour her. In my opinion, that would be crazier than what I read in the books. And that moments like those, is how the show will outshine the books. I feel like I made some good points in this video, but mostly it's just been rambling, nonsense mess. I just finished reading Dunk and Egg over this weekend for the 3rd or 4th time, so maybe I'll do some videos on those, or I'll do a Grand Northern Conspiracy Part 2, or I'll do some Dance with Dragon Theory videos, or maybe I'll go back and do a Game of Thrones chapter breakdowns. If any of those sound exciting to you, let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews. Long night, Zaldriza Spoosdari, Ixo Staor.